In April 1912, the world was at the peak of the Industrial Revolution. It was a time when humanity believed technology could conquer almost anything. In that atmosphere of confidence, Britain completed the largest and most luxurious ship in history, the RMS Titanic. Titanic was no ordinary ship. Newspapers of the time called it the Unsinkable ship. Engineers proudly emphasized its 16 watertight compartments. Some people even claimed not even God could sink this ship. That statement would later become one of history's most famous and bitter ironies. On April 10, 1912, Titanic departed from Southampton, England, on its maiden voyage to New York. On board were some of the wealthiest individuals, immigrant families, and ordinary travelers seeking adventure. First-class passengers enjoyed swimming pools, gyms, and luxurious restaurants. Some travelers described the ship as a floating palace. The first days of the journey were calm and pleasant. The ocean was smooth. Passengers danced, listened to music, and discussed their future plans. Meanwhile, the crew focused on maintaining high speed. Captain Edward Smith knew this would be his final voyage before retirement. On April 14, the Atlantic Ocean was unusually calm. The water was mirror-like, and the sky was filled with stars. Yet this calmness concealed danger. Several ships had sent iceberg warnings to Titanic. Despite this, the vessel continued traveling at near full speed. At 11:40 p.m., a lookout spotted a massive shadow in the darkness and shouted the now famous warning, "Iceberg, right ahead!" The wheel was turned sharply and the engines were reversed, but it was not enough. Titanic scraped the iceberg along its side. The impact did not seem severe at first. Some passengers barely noticed it. One man even joked, maybe someone dropped an ice box in the kitchen. Below deck, however, a disaster was unfolding. The iceberg had torn open the ship's hull. Several watertight compartments began filling with water. The ship's designer, Thomas Andrews, quickly realized the harsh truth: Titanic would sink. At first, many passengers did not grasp the seriousness of the situation. Musicians continued playing calming melodies on deck. Some people even treated the event like an adventure. But as the crew prepared the lifeboats, panic slowly began to spread. One of the greatest problems was that there were not enough lifeboats for everyone. Although Titanic carried more than 2,000 people, the lifeboats could hold only about half that number. Most believed the ship was unsinkable, so fewer lifeboats were considered acceptable at the time. "Women and children first!" echoed across the deck. Families were separated. Husbands placed their wives and children into lifeboats while staying behind. Some men tried to lighten the mood with jokes, but fear was visible in their eyes. The ship gradually began to tilt. The air was bitterly cold. The Atlantic water was freezing. Anyone who fell in could survive only minutes. As the clock approached 2 a.m., the Titanic's bow was completely submerged, while the stern rose into the air. People slipped on the slanted deck. Some prayed, while others desperately tried to reach the remaining lifeboats. Finally, at 2:20 a.m. on April 15, 1912, Titanic split in two and disappeared into the depths of the Atlantic Ocean. The following moments were marked by one of the most haunting silences in history. Thousands cried out for help in the icy water, but their voices gradually faded. The temperature of the sea was merciless. Several hours later, the ship RMS Carpathia arrived and rescued the survivors. Out of more than 2,200 people on board, only around 700 survived. The Titanic disaster shocked the world. Newspapers reported on it for days. People repeatedly asked the same question: how could the unsinkable ship sink? Investigations revealed multiple errors: excessive speed, insufficient lifeboats, and failure to take warnings seriously. The tragedy led to major reforms in maritime safety. Afterward, ships were required to carry enough lifeboats for everyone on board. Titanic was not only a technical disaster, it was filled with human stories, stories of courage, fear, love, and sacrifice. Some musicians played until the final moments to calm passengers. Some couples chose to remain together rather than separate. Today, Titanic rests about 4 kilometers beneath the ocean's surface. Though covered in rust, it remains one of the most powerful symbols in human history. Titanic left humanity with an important lesson. No matter how advanced technology becomes, humans are still vulnerable to nature. Overconfidence can be one of our greatest mistakes. Yet, the story of Titanic is not only about tragedy. It is also about human bravery, hope, and the will to survive. Even in the darkest night, people tried to help one another. More than a century later, the name Titanic continues to fascinate the world. Films, books, and research keep the story alive, because Titanic is not just a sunken ship, it is a symbol of human dreams, errors, and lessons. And perhaps the most compelling question remains: if we had been on that ship, what choices would we have made?